Side Scrollers is brought to you by you. If you'd like to support the show, head over to patreon.com/sidescrollers. It's time for Side Scrollers on YouTube.com with me, Stuttering Craig. I like movies that have sand in them. Wow.
He doesn't like it in his mouth.
And producer extraordinaire, Travis Key.
I don't like the texture in my mouth.
What? And brought to you by you, the G2 community at patreon.com/sidescrollers. And now, broadcasting from our homes, it's time for the #1 gaming and entertainment podcast on planet Earth. It's time for Side Scrollers.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, welcome on out to Side Scrollers on YouTube.com and Rumble.com and Twitch.tv. What's going on, everybody? Hi, Stuttering Craig. Welcome to the #1 and most important gaming podcast on planet Earth. It's Side Scrollers. What's going on, everybody? Man, we got a good one today. I am beyond excited. It is Thursday, which means it's a interview day, which means we get to chit-chat with some folks from around the internet and entertainment world. Today, we have somebody I am genuinely very excited to talk to. I think has been shunned from the live streaming space on YouTube, so this could be a big deal today, which is very, very great. But you can find him over on Rumble. We're talking to Salty Cracker. My God, this is going to be good. We're going to go for about an hour and a half, so make sure you guys stick around for the entire duration of the show. Give it a thumbs up while you're here. And if you're new, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We'd greatly appreciate that. You can find us over at Rumble at rumble.com/sidescrollers as well. If you enjoy the Rumble side of things, we are growing oh so quickly over there at the common sense side of things. We really appreciate the follow over there. You can follow us over on Twitter at SideScrollerPod and on Instagram as well. We will not do TikTok because TikTok is the devil. Let's see. This episode is brought to you by you, so you can support us over at patreon.com/sidescrollers or become a member right here on YouTube or on Rumble or wherever it is you want to watch. Next Thursday, as a quick reminder, we're going to be doing a one-on-one interview with Razor Fist, a YouTube pioneer as well. I've known all the way back since the old Screw Attack days. It's been amazing to see his growth as well. But right now, and also coming up a little bit later today, we're going to be doing one of my music streams. I'm very excited for that. It's Music Appreciation Day. We're going to be focusing in on amazing hits from the 1980s. So make sure you guys tune in for that. That'll be over at rumble.com/sidescrollers because I can't do this fun stuff over on YouTube because content copyright. All right, let's get into it, man. I'm really excited to bring in our guest today. A legend, a growing legend. One of the most controversial figures on the internet. It's Salty Cracker. Hello, buddy. How are you?
Boom. Thank you for having me, man.
I am beyond excited to talk to you today, man. This is going to be great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to be on a place with common sense. That's lacking in a lot of areas today.
It's like there was this weird time around. I mean, 2016 helped, but shortly after, I think 2020 was where the bridge and the dam broke, right? Where people just went batshit insane, and there were a few things that led to that, but we all know where that's going to lead to. So, yeah, man. Well, I'll tell you what. Well, let's talk about you and your history. I want to learn about you because you have the Salty Army, right? We're going to talk about the Salty Army here in a minute, but talk about your start. Who are you? Where did you grow up? What's your background and the whole thing? I want to learn about you as a person.
Grew up in California, born, raised in California, right outside San Jose.
So Northern California.
Yeah. Was, just dipped in everything California for a very long time until started noticing things. And grew up very, very shy kid. but also rambunctious. And so just kind of led me to hanging out at arcades, playing video games. That's how I would connect with my brother was the opposite. My brother was one of these social dudes who could make friends on the like we would be on the bus on the way to the mall or something. Dude would make friends, and he would drag me around to other people's houses, and then I would latch on to the house that had the Atari or the house that had the Nintendo, and then we would just sit there in front of the glow and just play Commando and stuff like that all day long. And that's how I spent my childhood until I got into deep into computers, and then I went to a whole computer nerd thing. And that's when I started watching, the internet evolve and started learning how to network cards and getting into the internet. And then got exposed to people like you, man, watching you guys just blaze this trail with the internet 2.0. You guys were pioneers of content creating outside of mainstream media press, where you weren't going to get information from corporate overlords or laundered information. You guys could actually speak your mind. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, look at these dudes talking about stuff that I love in a way that we had never seen it before. And you were doing your own thing, and it just really messed me up in a real good way, man. I was a long period of time. I was hunting through a thrift store. I almost got divorced, man. My wife was like, "You better stop buying all of this stupid crap and bringing it home." Dusty Nintendos, beat up Nintendo 64s. And I'm in there. I'm in the garage. I should be in the garage working on like a car engine, but I'm in the garage cleaning out Nintendo transistors and stuff like this. And
Love it.
that that kind of got me into making content. And I made a video game channel on YouTube. Long like when YouTube was before it got bought by Google, and then I had to go back to work, and then just got to a point in my work where I was like, this is real stupid. Like everything's stupid here. The people are stupid. Everything's
California, you mean?
stupid. What's that?
In California, you mean?
Yeah, in California, I was like, these people are all dumb. You know that meme where the dude is standing in front of the thousands and thousands of people, and he's like, "You're all wrong." That resonates in my head, because I was sitting there going, "You're all a bunch of dumb idiots. Like everything you say is stupid."
Well,
And
I'm sure that's kind of how you feel today sometimes. You're dealing with the internet.
yeah, well, I mean, so this place it's in a vacuum, and so everybody we're in a very it's a very chilling atmosphere. Like nobody wants to say anything that's going to get them in trouble. So no, it doesn't, like you could be in a coffee shop, you could be you could be no matter where you're working, you got all of these asshats all around you, and everyone's afraid to say anything. And I was like feeling really confined, and I was like, no, it's real simple. You guys are breaking this place. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go make my own business, and using the internet model for the business, and that took off, and it allowed me to make crazy content on the side in between clients. And then this group of ravenous berserkers just kept flooding the chat and making the channel bigger and bigger and bigger, and they were overcoming like the algorithm and the shadow banning and spreading. And I was like, holy whoa, what is going on here? And it just became this rambunctious part of the internet that is a hell of a place to hang out.
All right, I want to back up real quick, because you're talking about your time with video games, right? And this is a gaming and entertainment podcast. We touch on pop culture extensively, and kind of the culture creep that's creeping into video games. But I want to learn more about your time playing. What'd you play growing up? What you mentioned Commando, right? That's the old NES game. What was your number one? What was your best favorite console and game?
Wow. I mentioned Commando because that was the first time I saw a Nintendo, and the first time I saw a Nintendo, I was like I'm 40 something years old, and I still remember the first time I saw a Nintendo at my friend's house, because I was like, this is supposed to be at the arcade. Like what is this doing in your house? And it's
Right.
tiny. It's like the size of a VCR. And so the Nintendo will always have a place in my heart. A lot of people had, like, I had family members who had Ataris. Listen, Ataris are important. But the Nintendo was a massive leap. But the first console that I ever bought on my own was a Nintendo 64. And so that's always going to have a place in my heart, because it was the first time where I didn't have to beg Santa or my brother and I, we would combine our birthday gifts, even though our birthdays are on the opposite end of the calendar. And we would be like, listen, we'll be real good boys this year if you just get us a Super Nintendo. And the Nintendo 64 was the first time I was like, nope, I'm going to ride my bike to Walmart and I'm going to buy this with the money that I earned cutting lawns. And so that console and GoldenEye, I played GoldenEye endless hours. And it was probably the first game that I ever recorded on a VCR, took to my high school, and then used the equipment to edit like a real stupid video. And so, yeah, definitely Nintendo 64.
That's hardcore, man. I love it.
Nerd!
Yeah, nerd. So wait, okay. Do you have a Switch?
Yeah.
Okay, you saw it, so you know you can download GoldenEye 64 on the Switch now. Yeah.
I have GoldenEye. I'm playing GoldenEye on my refrigerator. I have hacked my refrigerator to run RetroPie, and I am playing Street Fighter 2, NBA Jam. I'm playing all that good stuff on the. I'm playing all that stuff on my fridge.
Love it, man. That's outstanding. I love it. So you actually started a gaming channel, and it didn't pan out very well. Like, was like Screw Attack, AVGN? Were they like your inspiration back in the day to kind of get started? And so, what was your shtick?
No, you guys really just kind of cracked open this whole nostalgia thing, and so I'd watch you guys. I'd watch your top tens. I would watch all of your stuff, and then all of your you guys were like a production company, so you guys like AVGN was part. So I'm sitting there going, oh my god, like I could get a Neo. When I was a kid, you would see a Neo Geo in a magazine, and a Neo Geo was like $1 billion to a kid.
Right.
Like you're sitting there going, you're in a Snicker bar going, nobody on my block could afford a Neo Geo. Nobody had anywhere near that thing. And then, but I'm like going to work and I've got a corporate job, and I'm sitting there going, I could probably find one of those on eBay. And I did, and I went crazy. And so I was just recording it. I was like, hey, look, I had one of those, like a flip camera. It was early 2000s, so you could buy like little camera. It was a stupid camera, but anyway. And I would take it. I would go to thrift stores. I would record. Like I was like, oh, this is so stupid. And that's part of the reason why I stopped doing it, was because I ran into early YouTube, probably still YouTube today, but early YouTube, the comment section was so brutal. And so you would sit there and you'd be like, look at this Nintendo. I remember I found a Nintendo, and it had a free game in it. I was all excited because there was a free game. It was like Arkanoid or something. It was something stupid. It's just like a 12-cent video game or something like this. But like, free stuff, man. It's a $20 bill that you find in your pocket. You get excited.
Right.
And the comments section was just full of the most hateful. ADL arrested. You'd be arrested if you called me those things today. And I remember going, damn, this is insane. Like, I just wanted to share that I found a Arkanoid, man. And I was embarrassed, I guess. I was like, oh, there's people making fun of me on the internet. And I just kind of pulled right back into, that kid on the elementary. I went right back into my locker. I was like, all right, I'll just hide in here.
That's so funny. I mean, I love that. But we had this rule back in the day where anytime we'd bring on anybody new to our team, they weren't allowed to look at comments for 2 weeks because we knew people were going to roast them, right?
Yeah.
And like, in retrospect, it's really like fucking stupid to think that way. But at the same time, like you would think that people would be civil and understand that, but at the same time, our audience at the time, they were, teenagers, our early 20s. And honestly, a lot of shitheads. They, that when you're a teenager, you're just a giant shithead asshat, right? And you want to be edgelord on the internet and tell everybody how much they suck. So yeah, that was, we were very conscious of things like that. And it's funny to hear that story that all of a sudden, you got pushed back into your shell by these mean comments on the internet. And now here you are, blazing out with both fingers, middle fingers out, saying, fuck you. And I love it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a, 15, 20 years ago on the internet. I mean, we were in the Quake lobbies, writing these words out and sending them, in the lobbies. And, there's a bunch of, I don't know, probably 20, 30-year-old, no, not 20-year-olds, but it was the internet from a content creator position back 20 years ago was a brand new thing. And so I used to have a little bit of empathy for people going through it now, but I mean, it's at this point, my thing is, you need to be able to overcome that. The world's not a nice place. There's this notion that we could all be best friends and kumbaya each other under the glow of the moon, and everybody could be besties. It's just a stupid, naive way of going through things. You need to go on the internet. You need somebody to attack you. You need to be called the most vile things in the world, and you need to overcome it. And the world today is just full of all of these lunatics. We're like, no, if you give us more money and more power, we can silence all of those mean people. But no, you're the mean person. You're the meanest people on the planet. You guys are insane.
Right. I was yesterday we were talking about. Do you know David Jaffe?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about. I don't know if you caught the whole Starfield thing over the weekend with the personal pronouns and all that. Did you catch any of that? Yeah, with Az, yeah. So I gave this comparison, a metaphor about like how personal pronouns, just as a whole, not necessarily with Starfield, it's, there's this creep, right? To where it's, the metaphor I gave was, it was kind of like Mormons walking up to your door and being like, hey, can I spread the word of Christ or whatever? And then you're like, no. And then like 5 minutes later, they come back and they're like, hey, and they're like, no. And then like 5 minutes later, they come back and you're like, hey, we get it. Right? We get it. It's really fucking annoying. We understand. And David Jaffe took offense to that and called me like a really bad, like an evil person or something like that. Just like because of my thoughts on personal pronouns and stuff. It's like, okay, so that's where we're at now. That's where we're at. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. These people, they always walk around and they go, "There's no room for hate here. There's no room for hate here." But then you disagree with them, and then they hate you and they start screaming at you, and it's like, well, aren't you violating your own tenets over here?
Well, we've reached out to David to have him on the show, and we'll see if he wants to come on and have a conversation. Because that's what this show is about. It's about conversation. So, yeah, okay. So your gaming YouTube channel kind of goes belly up. You get pushed back into your cave from the internet edgelords. But then you come back out and you launch a new channel. Because I was reading on your website, you said that your wife got tired of listening to you talk about all the shit that was going on. So you launched a channel. You said you got these people coming back to your live streams. You're beating the shadow bans. Why? Talk about your rise to prominence, and what was your message you feel like that resonated with your audience that allowed you to kind of break past the glass ceiling on YouTube and now ultimately have a really strong presence on Rumble?
The thing that was I think the key, I hate to say key to success, because I don't want people to think that there's keys to success. I was very fortunate. There's a lot of luck. If you keep grinding at stuff, you can increase your luck probability. But what happened with the YouTube thing is that I didn't start it expecting it to be my job. I didn't start it thinking, okay, well, I'm going to get rich doing this. I started it as a way to vent. And what was happening was, in California, the news, what's on the television, what's in the newsprint, what's on the internet, it's blatantly stupid. It's blatantly stupid. And the only reason why anything is going in the direction that's going in California, I imagine these other far left-wing areas, is because people are afraid to say anything. And so I had set up my own private business, and so I was my own boss. And so I couldn't be, you couldn't, it was around this time in 2016 where it was, the cancel culture was starting to rev up. And I knew if I was going to make a channel, a YouTube channel where I'm saying this stuff is stupid in California, we should probably release mugshots of criminals. It's not racist to release mugshots of criminals. Let's not give criminals cover by hiding their identities. I better have my own business so I don't get fired when I say something like that. And so the YouTube channel was originally just kind of a vent. And so I would find something that was in California that was stupid, and I would make fun of it. And I had always set up the channel, and I always told my wife, I was like, we're not going to get monetized, and we're not going to make money off of this channel. This isn't. We're going to get banned. It's not going to take that long, probably. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And so when the channel was big enough to monetize, when it was big enough to actually make money, we took all of that as gravy, and we just said, listen, let's keep our day jobs. We kept our day. Like, there is still an aspect of my private business that I run today. Like, I still keep my day job because this could all go away in a minute. And so if you're out there, that's kind of like, doing something that you're passionate about, doing something that you love, doing something that you're not going to get a paycheck for years is probably the best way to be successful.
I talk about that all the time. There's this, there's almost like this entitlement of like, hey, I'm not going to. Back in the day with Screw Attack, we had interns, right? And we had a couple of them were unpaid, right? And people will be critical of that, right? But I feel that if you're, I feel like there's something to an unpaid internship, right? You have to work to really understand the value of why you're getting paid, right? And the grind associated to getting to a point of success. I think if you don't have that grind, you don't value what you have at the end of the day. So there's definitely something to that. What was the red pill moment for you? What was the moment where you're like, man, I got to talk about this. This is just insane.
There's been a lot of red pills. And there's been red pills I didn't recognize were red pills until years later. And 9/11 is probably a gigantic one. 9/11, like I remember 9/11. I remember going, okay, this is, we got to go to war. We're being attacked, and CNN would never lie to me because it's CNN, and if CNN lied to me, then surely somebody would arrest CNN or something like this.
Right.
But it doesn't kick in until you start seeing stuff. I mean, it took a long time for things to really be pulled out of that situation. But by that time that had happened, I was recognizing that there was a lot of, like, everything on television's lying to me. Like,
so this is in 2001. You realize this?
In 2001, I remember ingesting all of this information. I remember, 9/11 was our COVID back in 2001. It was a gigantic life change. It changed our society. If you're 20 years old, you don't understand the world that you live in now, because it was so, and I'm sure every generation can say this, but life before 2001, completely different than life now. And life after COVID, like, they've changed things forever. And I remember going, this seems weird, but all of these people couldn't be lying to me. And then you get to that point where I was talking about with that meme. Like, no, you're all wrong. And I was like, oh. And then so something in the back of my brain was like, something's wrong. Like, something's really wrong. All of these corporate media things are lying to us. And I'm sitting there going, but that can't be true. And then you get to a point where you see people saying it gets unavoidable as clown world intensifies. And so I'm seeing stuff in California. Like, I remember I had a friend where this is like around 2008. We're both working entry level jobs, just out of college. And I think he was working at like an AutoZone. And I remember they gave him like a 500, 600. He bought a house. I remember going, that doesn't seem right at all. Like, what is going on over here? That's going to be a huge problem. My friend's an idiot. Why would you give him that much money? Like, what is going on over here? And then the entire economy falls out in 2008. And I remember going, okay, this is all tied to, you see it at a macro level, but then you also see it at a micro level where, like, just like stupid stuff like Kotaku's lying to you. Like you see they're lying about video games. If they're lying about everything, I was like, we live in a bizarre world. This planet's crazy.
Well, okay, so let's talk about Kotaku. Let's talk about Polygon and just the games media as a whole. Do you follow any of the games media still, or are you
not anymore?
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, what are your thoughts on just the gaming industry, gaming press, just the gaming industry as a whole?
It's a symptom of the overall problem. There's got a bunch of people who pretend that they're selling you something, whether it's, mortgages or video games, but that's not the person really selling it to you. It's the corporation, whoever owns Kotaku, whoever bought Kotaku from that dude who started it. Like they run things, and they've got interests, and you can circumvent. Like you can, if you're a crappy game developer, that a crappy game is coming out, you just go behind and pay that person off, and then have Kotaku regurgitate this nonsense, and then they all circle jerk each other while the rest of us are playing. We've dumped $70 on a crappy game, and I'm sitting there going, "This is something that permeates our entire society."
I feel like there's been a lot of the, you talk about the state of society as a whole, right? I feel like a lot of this has devolved based off of people's, and you've kind of touched on this, but the fear of saying something, the desire to be nice to people, not want to hurt people's feelings, and ultimately what happens is, you have outlets in the gaming industry, what are gaming press, Polygon, Kotaku, etc., that ultimately are infiltrated by people, ultimately by people's niceness, because they don't want to offend somebody, right? They don't. The boss didn't want to offend them, so they're going to bring them on, whatever. They don't want to be called a istophobe, whatever. And ultimately, then once the what's the old saying? The fox is in the hen house, and then all of a sudden it kind of devolves from there. Do you feel like that's a I don't know? Your thoughts on that as far as gaming, not even gaming press, just the media as a whole?
Well, I think what has happened is that you go back 100 years ago, and you could see the evolution of like television, right? And so nobody took television seriously at first. Television was like some sort of niche, and it was just kind of like a novelty, and everyone was like, no, this isn't going to replace radio. This isn't going to replace radio. Everything's fine. And then TV becomes gigantic, and then TV gets and so gigantic means it's also useful as a weapon. And so it can get hijacked by people who want to utilize television as well. It's getting billions of eyeballs a minute, and then television gets dwarfed by. When I was a kid, the movie industry blew up. We're the generation of blockbuster movies. I mean, you're talking about an evolution in movie ticket sales going through the roof, and the movie industry becoming its own, and then that gets hijacked. Well, video games are dwarfing what any of these things have ever done. And the industry, which was a joke 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, I remember every single person in my family, they come to our house for Thanksgiving, they come to our house for Christmas, and they'd be like, why is your kid playing a stupid video game? Like, this is why are they wasting their time? There's no value on this. There's no industry in this. There's no anything in this. And these people completely misunderstood what it was going on. And our generation has made video games an entity that far outpaces anything that Hollywood could do. And so that's now being hijacked. And just like I imagine radio was hijacked, and I imagine television was hijacked, or movies have been hijacked. Well, now video games are being hijacked, and they're being utilized. Anything that gets the attention of all of the youth, and becomes their content and their culture, is going to be hijacked by people who want to destroy a place. And so there's a reason why all of these positions have been opened up to these Kool-Aid haired morons who are insane, ravenous lunatics, because the delivery system of video games, with these people as the gatekeepers, these people as the functionaries, is going to make people is number one, going to destroy video games. They have taken it over. They're going to destroy it by doing this, but they are altering culture. And they are changing entire generations' brainwave patterns with what they're doing. And so they're trying to normalize real stupid stuff. And using video games is their blunt force weapon.
feel like that's kind of been the ultimately you want to I mean, it makes sense, right? If you want to have an effect on a larger scale, you want to talk to the youth, right? It's not about
Mhm.
what we think; it's about what the youth thinks coming up, right? Um, and it's an interesting thought process for sure. Have you, as you bring this out and you talk about number one, who do you feel is trying to infiltrate and affect and cause this change in culture?
I think I think there's just a group. I there's this great George Carlin clip where he talks about, these people aren't sending, like, there's no shadowy meeting where 12 people get together that are doing this, and they, have a minutes memo and everything like this. But there are like-minded interests operating at a very high level who are all moving in the same direction, and they don't need contracts with each other. They don't need to. These people are all hanging out with they all go to the same parties. They're all on the same golf courses. They're all on the same yachts. And these people, they don't necessarily care about, these are all ungodly rich people, and what they're interested in is something higher than money. And I think that these people are interested in control. They're control freaks, massive, massive, massive control freaks. And so they want to micromanage. If they get off on micromanaging hundreds of millions of people. And so these people get together, and you can change an entire industry by just tweaking a little bit of how the money comes into it. The money comes into it, or now you've got a whole electric wired fence of ideology. And that, with money, all of these places are doing real stupid stuff because they're getting diversity, equity, and inclusion grants from the federal government, and they're getting loans, and there's a cash infusion that your average consumer is not seeing at the, when you're buying a game on Steam. You're not seeing all of these interactions that are going on, but in the background, these companies, they're being told you can get X amount of money if you hire this person who's based on their skin. Real stupid stuff that we were all supposed to be shaken away from. Don't discriminate. Don't hire somebody based on their skin color. Don't hire somebody based on their sexual orientation. Don't discriminate against somebody for the same things, obviously. But now they're openly doing. They're writing grants. They're getting money for this. And then once you let a diversity officer into your corporation, they now own your corporation, because then it sends a chilling message through everybody's cubicle that you better be on board and you better be in line. Because you can argue with anybody in that corporation, but you argue with that diversity officer, you're going to get fired. Not only are you going to get fired, but then you're going to get blacklisted on LinkedIn. You're going to get blacklisted in the entire industry. And that's what's driving all of this nonsense. You got a bunch of, this is a chilling effect that's going on, and it's very easy to control big companies like this by just one office.
Yeah, as you've talked about this, people, the one thing you hear all the time is, you could call, like I said, the ist, the phobe, whatever,
Mhm.
right? And you said something like, we were taught. I go by, the MLK message, right? You judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin, right? And I definitely feel like that's been lost. Just from personal experience, after 2020, there's the summer of love and all that stuff. I was with the company, and what was amazing was the total fracture that appeared. I'm just a dude, right? I'm just a guy. I think I'm just like everybody else, right? Been pretty lucky, been pretty fortunate in doing what I've been doing, but I can relate to people. And I always mention that. And my business partner at the time, he's like, "No, you can't. No, you're like, what are you talking about? You're not the common man, right?" And when 2020 hit, that's where I saw the divide of like what my thought of the common man is, and that is people who have thought the same way for pretty much the entirety of Earth's existence up until about 5 seconds ago, and the other common man who wants to jump on the trend and put signs up and protest and all that stuff. Right, that's fine. But it was interesting to see kind of that permeate in the gaming space so quickly, and you saw brands that were extremely welcoming, the most welcoming community online, completely disavow an entire section of their audience if they voted a certain way. And that doesn't seem very welcoming to me. It just seems extremely hypocritical. And that's something I've never really kind of been able to get past, because I don't judge people based off of who they vote for or who they don't vote for, or who they want to sleep with, or what color they are, or whatever. If they're good people, they're good people. And I just feel like that should be how you treat people. But I was demonized for thinking that way. And I think that's just the most backwards way you could possibly think.
Yeah, it's regressive, and it's gonna stifle. Like I can't imagine that when you were running Screw Attack, you're sitting there going, "Well, hold on a second, got to make sure that you vote a certain way."
Right? Never discussed.
Anything. You sit there and you say, "What do you bring to this company? What do you bring to our culture? What do you bring to our productivity?" And that's how you build something. And you let these people, you hire smart, and you hire people that are going to meld well with what you're trying to do. And that's all been thrown out. That's all been thrown out. And now there's quotas. It's madness. It's insane to see. Again, being raised in California, that you were told don't be colorblind, and it makes sense, or you're told to be colorblind, and everything that we were told, that I made such a better, more cohesive. Someone's gonna say, "Well, better for you because you're a straight white male." I think it was better for everybody when I mean, the early '90s. There was much more harmony in this world, and you didn't have these destroyed areas. You got for all of this this platitude of all these people waving their signs, all of these people with their BLM fists, with all of this stuff. Every Black community in my area is completely destroyed. There's no CVS, there's no Targets, there's no Walmarts. Everything's locked up. This very civil rights progressive movement that's mostly peaceful has destroyed all of these areas, and they're going to continue destroying. This is a group of people who've never built anything. All these people who've taken over, they are, somebody comes in, some entity or a group of people, they buy successful things, and then they let all of these lunatics inside, and then they destroy it while pumping out their agenda, their propaganda, and their AstroTurf. And then they move on to the next thing that people like you build. You guys build incredible stuff that changes the trajectory of the internet. And then these fucking people come in who've done nothing. And they come in with their feelings, and they come in with their all they've done is sit in a college education room being force-fed stupid Marxist propaganda. And then they take this and they implement this into this body of creation that far more intelligent and creative people have built, and then it all falls apart. Not a single one of these places is better off with the mentality and attitude of these left-wing lunatics. And I mean that in the nicest of all ways. There's
the irony of a lot of it is I feel like a lot of it's driven by the early 20s white girl, right?
Yeah.
And they tend to be literally the most racist of all of them, which is crazy and sad. So do you like I said, I feel like 2020 was a big tipping point for everybody, and everybody kind of recognized that there's a life before 9/11, there's a life after after it, and 2020, and so forth and so on. There's all these like lines of demarcation. Do you feel like the tide is kind of starting to turn a little bit with just from your feeling of people kind of waking up? There's talk about COVID restrictions coming back, and there's been heavy pushback on that. You've seen schools that have tried to put mask mandates in, and students and parents are revolting against that. Like, do you feel like people are starting to wake up to what they're seeing, and it's kind of like a fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, I'm an idiot type of thing?
This is going to be very interesting to watch play out. They're not going to get anywhere near what they got in 2020. I think I think the plan. Have you ever gone back and listened to how these people were talking at the beginning of all of this, the Fauci interviews or the Bill Gates interviews?
Yeah, of course.
If you listen to those to the audience, if you go back and you find some clips from 2 or 3 years ago at the beginning of this, Listen to it now. Listen with everything that has happened. Listen to it now, and you can clearly understand you were never supposed to get out of COVID. They wanted infinite lockdowns. They wanted infinite vaccines. They wanted everybody vaccinated. They wanted. I don't want to get your channel in trouble, but they were. The way that these lunatic megalomaniacs were talking is insane. They didn't get what they wanted. We are in an era of reach that they couldn't comprehend. They thought everybody was going to see Anthony Fauci on the cover of all of these magazines. They were going to see him in his white lab suit, and they were going to be bludgeoned to death with the word science. And they were all going to acquiesce to this brand new medical tyranny utopia that they were going to try to implement on us. So they lost. They lost. All right. These people, if you look at that Stephen Colbert lunatic and all of these stupid skits where these vaccine dancers were dancing like morons, and all of the audience is masked up and these idiots are not on the stage. It's crazy. So they lost. Those of us who stood up to these people forced them to back down. Now, evil is not just going to be like, okay, you win. I'll go off into the middle of the sun. They're going to come back. Now, when they come back this time, it's going to be fascinating because you could already feel the energy shift that has happened in the last few years. And you ain't going to get anywhere near the traction that you got in 2020 when this was a novel operation being implemented. There's going to be massive kickback. You're going to see massive upheaval. And what's fascinating this time is that even lefties, you're saying lefties, the people who, I hate to, it always sounds like I'm attacking in large swaths. I talk in large generalities, but my mom ain't going to get my mom's my mom is a flaming lefty. My entire life, I'm sure her entire life, she ain't going to get another one of these shots. My mom has shifted, and I use my mom as a bellwether, as a canary in the coal mine. I sit there going, you guys messed up. And my mom is not going to play along with this. And if my mom's not going to play along with this, you guys done messed up, because there's going to be a lot of people who, especially I got a feeling parents, you guys out there are not going to mask your children up for public school. You're not going to do this. And that's going to be, you guys are the ones who stopped this massive overreach. It's the parents who put their foot down. You guys didn't look at the percentage of population of children that were vaccinated. It's infinitesimally small. It's a few lunatics here in Berkeley that jabbed their kids up. Most people are like, no. So that's the starting position for this round. And boy, if they can't get this operation off the ground, they are really going to devalue all of the work and effort that they put into COVID in general. And I think that's fantastic for our side.
It's been interesting to see kind of the shift culturally. Like, I've never been a political person, like, ever, right? You talked about like a screw attack. Ask how many political conversations we had then. Zero. We never talked about the president. We never talked about the economy. It was just, we go in, we go to work, right? And I've always been that way. But what was interesting was, and I've always been like, I would say more than anything, socially, I'm more left, right? And I would say economically, I'm more conservative, right? I'm somewhere right in the middle. But what I've seen over the years is, whereas I've always thought 2 + 2 = 4, all of a sudden people were like, no, it equals 5. And I'm like looking around going like, what the hell, right? This isn't right. And all of a sudden, me, who's just kind of sitting here and looking around going like, oh, there's the liberals over there, there's the conservatives over there, and here we are just hanging out, and those guys are kind of crazy, those guys are kind of crazy, and all of a sudden, like, one group's going, nope, you're gonna go right over there, and by the way, you're extremist, and you're right wing, and by the way, you're also racist, and you're also homophobic, and you're all, like, how dare you? And it's like, what the hell? 2 + 2 = 4? No, it's 5. And that's kind of been the most interesting thing for me, is how quickly you get labeled in such an aggressive, like, mean, evil, like, evil in your heart way. It's been crazy to say. And I know that I'm not alone. in that. And I think that's why it's interesting to talk about these things, because I know that there are people, the same reason why your audience has skyrocketed is there's people out there just like you who are looking around saying like, nah, this ain't right. This ain't the way it's supposed to be. So I don't know. It's just that's my personal experience, and I think that's why you've been able to grow so much.
Is that what happened with your business partner? Was it the COVID thing, or was it the social virtue signaling kind of
It
social thing?
wasn't COVID. It was definitely the social stuff, social justice stuff. I remember we did a we did a lot of gameplay stuff, and one day we did a podcast style show, and we're sitting there talking about it, and we're all, quarantined at our houses, and we're doing, I think, via Zoom or StreamYard or whatever. And this was still very fresh. Everything was like brand. I think it was within a day or two after the stuff in Minnesota. And, the general thought process was, I said, like, I'm going to treat people like I've always treated them. I'm going to be colorblind. I'm going to be nice to everybody I meet. And I got so much pushback from, once again, white college age girls in our community who's like, that's not good enough. You have to do better. Right. And then they went to my business partner and they're like, that's unacceptable. He has to apologize. And I'm like, I'm not going to apologize.
Wow.
Like, I'm not going to apologize for saying I'm going to treat everybody equally. And the kind of the push over the edge was like, look, you need to apologize. And he said, these are the people who pay our bills. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not apologizing for being considerate towards everybody I meet. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And that's when I left the company. So, and since then they've, I have not watched any of their stuff. I don't really keep track of them. But they've apparently have been very political in kind of what in their messaging and stuff. And I'm sure they'd say the exact same thing about me. But what I'm saying is the most common sense things that pretty much up until, I don't know, the last couple of years, like I said, the entire world has thought.
Yeah.
So I it is what it is. And somehow that makes me crazy right-wing conspiracy theorist, well, it's like, okay, whatever, so.
Yeah, that's you see that play out over and over and over again. You've got these, everything seems to be structured in a way to make you sound like a crazy person. Like, oh, well, if you notice that college white women in their 20s are all coming out with the same programming, that you're all of a sudden misogynist when, I got a fantastic partnership with my wife. I don't think I'm superior to my wife. My wife and I, we complement each other's faults, and we work together as a team. And they go, oh, you're a filthy misogynist because you hate women. No, I hate people who are weak. I hate weak people, and we've made a society, we've made it easier for people to be weak, and so you're seeing an explosion, and you're clearly seeing an explosion of weakness. Go look at TikTok and social media, and it's all of these. The best way for white chicks to get views, white liberal chicks to get views, is to go on there and cry. And I'm sitting there going, that's not strength. That's not empowerment. That's weakness. And you're trying to take a victim mentality and a weakness mentality. You're trying to spread it amongst people. And we should be making people strong, both men and women. I don't want to turn women into men, but I want people to have, base principles and resolve. And they don't want that, which is, I mean, you just talked about it. You got role-based principles. If I'm going to treat everybody cool. And they said, no, you need to discriminate against who we perceive to be the enemy. We perceive the enemy based on their sexual orientation, their skin color, and their gender, which is weird because you idiots go out there and tell everybody that that's what you're fighting against, but you're doing the exact same thing. You're just doing it to white people.
It's and it's been interesting to see kind of the creep into the gaming space. If I can bring it back to gaming for a minute. Like I said, we talked about the Starfield thing early with, that was a big blow up with the pronouns and stuff. And you see that kind of make its way into the gaming space. the irony of all that, I mentioned the conversation with David Jaffe, and but like this is a guy who was the director of a game with one of the most masculine people in video game history that literally got powered up by having threesomes with goddesses, right? And then years later, he's like masculinity and is bad. It's like what happened there? What happened in that time frame to where people have totally shifted to the idea of masculinity being a negative thing and strong women being a negative thing? I think I'm asking because I don't know, like, what happened in there.
Oh, well, I think what happened is what you touched on earlier. I think if you don't toe that line, so there is, they forced an entire generation. I think my brother was like the last person to have woodworking and metal shop in school. Like they phased that all out. So like you couldn't even, I think you might have been able to work on a lawnmower engine in high school, but then his cohort was the last one. And they said, nope, at this point in California, if you are in a public education system in California, you're going to go to college. And they forced everybody into the college system. And then in the college system, they just sat there and they said, listen, you're going to here's your talking points. Here's your script. Here's your programming. Now go out in the world and mess everything up. And I think David Jaffe is sitting there going, okay, I'm David Jaffe. And if I ever want to make a video game again, if I ever want a paycheck again, if I ever want influence again, if I ever want to create again, I better not touch that third rail. I better stay in my lane. I better go with what these chicks are saying, or they will go to corporate and they'll get me ousted. And you saw that over and over and over and over again in the especially heat up in 2016. And then I think we're at a point now where there's been enough time where people have shown, listen, you can get me ousted from my company. For having real basic opinions such as don't discriminate and hire the best person. And if I like, you're a perfect example, you'll leave and you'll just create again. You'll be fine. It's going to suck. And you got to go back to the grind. And you gotta, I mean, when you start a new business up, you know what it's like. You gotta sit there and you gotta cut out the beer. You gotta cut out the meat. You gotta go to peanut butter sandwiches. Your wife gets anxious for a couple of years, and then you buckle down and you grind it out and you build back up again. And for the people who have gone through the college education system as of late, that they think that's hard. They think sitting in a class, they think getting a loan that they don't have to pay back, and then sitting in the classroom and taking a Scantron test in between cry closets, they think that's difficult. And so those people, they don't even understand what it's like to build something. They don't understand. And so I think David Jaffe is at the mercy of all of these people who have been programmed by the education system, and he knows to stay in his good boy box.
Do you yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think, like I said, I'd love to have that conversation with Jaffe. We'll see if he wants to come on.
I'd be shocked if he did, because he can't say anything. These people, they have a certain set of talking points, and they're an inch deep. They can't communicate. They can't talk because there's so many rules for them. They don't, and the rules change so fast for these people. So.
Well, I think that's where it comes down to is that, the idea of specifically with Starfield, right? There was pushback on the pronouns thing, and it's like, well, there's the they them, right? And he's like, well, what's wrong with having an inclusive game? It's like, well, okay, then how come that guy's not in a wheelchair, or there's no wheelchair option? How come that guy's not blind? How come there's not 75,000 other pronouns in there? Like, where does the slippery slope end? And the answer is it doesn't. Right. So how inclusive do you really want to be, when it comes to these games and the approach? I'll say this. You're talking about the grind. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate that. Okay. So we talked about kind of the gaming industry as a whole. We talked about your favorite video games, and you obviously developed an audience on YouTube, but you've made the move over to Rumble for your live streams. Like, talk about YouTube versus Rumble and kind of the differences between the platforms. We've obviously talked about, the things you cannot say on YouTube. But you can say on Rumble. Outside of that, what are the major differences you found between the two platforms?
Rumble's sane. The dude who runs Rumble is real sane. The guy, he wants to build a business. He understands that he's an old school individual, and he's like, I want eyeballs so I could sell ad revenue so I can make a big company. and he understands that the best way to do that is to get out of everybody's way. And on Rumble, you can't call for somebody's death, and you can't break the law, but you can point out you can point out. So I mean, pretty soon you're not going to be able to disagree with anything on YouTube. YouTube's got all of these rules, and they don't even tell you what the rules are. And so sometimes you can talk about masks, sometimes you can't talk about masks, sometimes you can talk about adverse effects to experimental injections, sometimes you can't talk to it. Well, when I make a video for Rumble, there's zero brain power. It's old. Young people won't even understand this, Craig. But like 20 years ago, when you would make, man, we're getting old, brother. you would make a video. You would just make a video. You would say, here's what I want to talk about. I want to make fun of this stupid game, right? And then you would go do it. And you might even have a disgusting joke or something in it. But you were able to create. You were able to be creative. That's what it's like on Rumble. It's old school content creation on Rumble. Rumble ain't ever going to call me up and say, listen, you better walk that back. Well, they haven't done it yet. I've said some crazy stuff over there. And so it's a joy to be able to create content on a platform that gets out of your way, and it's also growing. Like, it's like we're getting some stupid crazy views on Rumble. And so I think it's an incredible place to I want to be a part of not only fighting back in this culture war, but while we do it, instead of burning down like these other idiots and destroying stuff, I want to be impactful in the culture war by giving a voice that people resonate with, if you at all resonate with it, at the same time also building up a platform that will allow us to have conversations like that.
Did YouTube ever reach out to you, like, personally, and be like, hey, can't talk like that?
No, YouTube. I have never been able to talk to anybody on YouTube. YouTube, at one point we were in good standing with YouTube. We were monetized. I think we had 100,000. We might not have had 100,000. We were close. There were times on YouTube where we were putting on stupid numbers, like 30, 40, 50,000 people a month. And then they turned it off. And we could not get a hold of anybody. And then when they demonetized us, they did that thing where I just read, I got a DM from somebody on Twitter where this dude, he got demonetized, but he already had 60K that they raised that month. And then YouTube steals that money. Like they take it from, like if you're 2 hours away from payday on YouTube and you've racked up $100,000, but you then get demonetized, they keep that money. Jeez. They keep all of that money. And that happened to us. And, it was like $6,000. My biggest paycheck ever from YouTube would have been $6,000. And it was Christmas. So all these people sent in a lot of super chat. It wasn't even mostly ad revenue. We had a lot of videos that were over 1 million views. And then a lot of like Christmas super chats. And they hit us right after that, demonetized us. And I was like, well, you're going to pay us out? And they're like, no. Now we ain't paying. I was like, well, then who do I talk to about you guys stealing from me? And they're like, we're Google. Of course we steal from you. We steal from everybody. And I was like, oh, I mean, that was massive. I mean, that was insane. I don't want to make jokes about YouTube headquarters and Iranian chicks. So I'll stay away from that. But
you feel like they did it on purpose? Did they demonetize your channel after such a successful month for you on purpose?
No. I think it was just happenstance. They demonetized people Listen, six grand is the world to me. $6,000 my fucking mortgage payment for a couple months, man. $6,000 is a lot to me. To YouTube, that ain't nothing. They don't give a shit about $6,000. No, they didn't. They just. It was probably just another big month of see, YouTube is not afraid of money. Again, this is another institution that prints money. What YouTube's afraid of is reach. YouTube's afraid of people not towing the talking points, getting lots of eyeballs, and so they're way more threatened by somebody putting on what was that back then? I don't know, 20, 30,000 people a month. That's why we got demonetized.
Just the reach, the message that they're more concerned about.
Yeah, these institutions, the Google platform, Twitter 1.0, I mean Twitter 2.0 to a certain extent. None of these places are perfect. These are all gigantic mass consensus formation factories. And so the TikToks, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, these are everybody. Well, not everybody, because people are waking up to this. A lot of normies are like, oh, it's social media. I can put pictures of my cat, my lunch on it. And it's all fun and games. No, these are weapons. These are gigantic weapons. How, television overtook radio, and how video games overtook the movie industry. Social media overtook video games as a way to reach people. And these gigantic platforms that are getting all of these people. In East Germany, they would have these Stasi files on people, and so the German deep state, the commie deep state, would sit there and they'd fill out all of these records. They would take phone calls and messages, and they would keep all of these records on people so they can keep eyes on them and make sure that their mass formation consensus, however they did it through probably radio, was working out well for them. Well, now we got these big old platforms. We just filling out our own Stasi files, man. If you're on all these platforms, you're telling them where you live. You're telling them what you like doing. When you log in and you're constantly posting stuff, they know what time you wake up. They know what time you go to sleep. They know what time you put the phone down. They know where you're going. These things are all monitoring us. And so that's the actual point of all the social media platform. Isn't so you can contact your family and show them dog pictures. The point of social media platforms is for them to create a gigantic digital panopticon for the rest of us to be facilitated in. And it's a double-edged sword, because for people who've got grind mentality and want to fight back, you also open up an area of resistance. And so you can have people who don't toe the preferred talking points, but they'll try to stop you.
So a lot there. I want to talk about Twitter specifically. I want to talk about Elon Musk, but I want to ask, do you feel it does feel like we're in this information culture war happening right now? It feels like we're in the middle of that, whether, there's no, it's not Russia versus the United States. It's just an information battle. Do you feel like it will get worse before it gets better, or have we reached an apex of that yet?
Yeah, no, I don't. That's a real good question. When I say that it's going to get worse before it gets better, I mean that there is a trajectory of tyranny that we're on, that before it gets better, we need to really flesh it out and expose it. And I think that's the process that we're going through now. People every day, if you've been listening to people that you're not supposed to listen to forever, you already know all of this information that's coming out right now. But there's a lot of people who, they're finally being exposed to it. This is a mass red pilling that's going on, and it might be at a micro level for a lot of people. But a lot of people are sitting there going, I don't know, man. The economy doesn't feel that great to me. Like, I keep hearing that the economy is great. They keep telling me the economy is great. They keep telling me to be afraid of COVID. They keep telling me just 12 more of these shots, and I'll only get COVID 15 times this year. And that is having an impact on your average everyday person at ground level, because they're in there's 100+ million people who are in that area where I was in in the 9/11, where I'm like, something's not right, but I don't know what's going on. The amount of people in that something's not right, but I don't know what's going on phase right now, never been higher. never been higher. And that's what's going to rescue us from this. But we got some shit to crawl through while we do this.
You mentioned Twitter. Twitter, obviously, you know, there's 1.0, now there's Elon Musk, and he's fighting the ADL and blah blah blah. Do you feel, number one, what's your impressions of Elon Musk? Is there, you know, there's good Elon, there's bad Elon, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Elon Musk?
I think Elon Musk is a dude under an ungodly amount of pressure. I think that dude, I can't comprehend. It's funny because, you know, I'm just trying to run a channel. Like I got one channel and a website and a few of these social media things. And like, it's, you know, you're doing it all day long. It doesn't seem like you're doing it all day long because, you know, you don't post all day, but you know what it's like. Elon Musk is at the forefront of some incredibly pioneering sectors of our economy: electric cars, electrical information, rockets, satellites, internet, space internet. And a lot of these areas, I mean, he's one of the largest, he might be the largest contractor with the US federal government when it comes to launching rockets. So he is integrated into the system. He's baked into the Washington, D.C. cake. He also says some incredibly spicy things. I mean, some ridiculously spicy things. Like he was talking about Obama today with a pizza emoji, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh my God, this dude!" So I think at a certain level, Elon Musk knows what's going on right now is stupid, and I think at a certain level, Elon Musk wants to be a good human, and then at another level, he also understands that he's got a vision of the future that I'm not on board with. So he's into like cyborgs and living forever and some things that at my gut level, if he cures some diseases, if he helps people's quality of life with some of this, more power to you guys. Again, at an individual level, with my upbringing and my spirituality, I think it's probably a bad idea to be doing some of this stuff. But I think he is in a gigantic tug of war. I think for his safety, he needs to own Twitter. Like he needs to own it. But then at a feasible reality level, when you're running a corporation that is that big, that's also a previous weapon of the establishment. He's trying to figure out a way to utilize it for his benefit, but then also not have. He's under attack. I mean, the ADL squashing out 60% of his revenue. That's not an accident. He's under attack, and the powers that be would surely like to just burn the place down, but they're not going to burn the place down. But what they'll do is they'll financially attack it. They'll try to infiltrate it. They'll do corporate espionage, corporate warfare, and they'll do everything in their power to undermine. You can't have one dude like Elon Musk owning an apparatus that has 100+ million people thinking on it.
You mentioned something in there that I don't know if I've heard you speak on. You mentioned spirituality. Are you a pretty religious person, or I don't know, what's your take on spirituality, religion?
Yeah, I was raised in a family of non-practicing Christians. I think I was baptized Catholic. It was very confusing household, Craig. And my upbringing and my understanding, I very much believe the basic principles, and I try to follow the basic principles of the Bible. That said, I've done a ton of psychedelics. It's so and I'm still I did a massive amount of edibles once, and I think I'm still processing that trip. When you do a heroic dose,
what's that like? As somebody who's never done any of that stuff, what is that like? Describe to me the process of taking an edible or going on a trip.
You will forget most of it, but imagine being able to feel the universe. It sounds madness. It's crazy. it's hard to you can't. It's a higher order of things that are happening that when you come down and you try to explain it to other people, it's like taking showing a kid a tesseract and trying to explain to them how this is just a square, but it's more than it keeps going on for forever. I'm not telling people to do that, by the way. I'm not. I think that I didn't do drugs until I had a career. And so I'm just saying kids, the kids definitely shouldn't be doing drugs, but there's something with psychedelics and there's something with the Bible. And not just the Bible, by the way, because I think a lot of these religions, they've all got a core that runs parallel. The Quran, the Bible, a lot of the ancient Indian texts, all of these seem to have a very, very similar thing. And then when you get really spaced out, you start going, were they spaced out when they were writing this? Because it's all kind of it all kind of circles back, and it's basically my spiritualism is boiled down to, I think that we're probably all just energy going through. I think we're creating all of this. I think we're trying to, when you're infinite energy creating this realm of existence might seem like hell to people, but if you're infinite energy, this is all an experience. And if you're experiencing it through all these different entities, like the birds and the other humans, this is getting way off.
Hey, man, I love it. Hey, this is exactly why I asked the question, brother. Keep going, man. I love it.
We gotta be way off. There's some burners out there going, yeah, let's do acid. I just feel that we're all going through something that we're creating ourselves, and we're all going to see how stupid all of this really, really micro level stuff is. But when we realize that we won't even be in this form, like we'll be shooting across the cosmos through other dimensions. It's going to be really insane. But boy, that's got to be a trip for the audience. Is got to be like, this guy's crazy.
Well, I think, oh, look, okay, so you said that, right? And I love that we went down that crazy ass road. It's funny because on your website, on the very, very bottom of your website, you have a disclaimer, a disclaimer on the bottom of your website that says, it says, these are opinions of a ramblings of a lunatic. They are for entertainment purposes only and possibly wrong. You'll listen at your own risk.
I took that from South Park.
Okay, that's directly from South Park. I love it.
I as I'm getting older and older and older, I'm recognizing what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get out ahead. And so when I was 20, I thought I had my head squarely on my shoulders and I thought I knew some stuff. And then I got to 30 and I was like, boy, 20-year-old me was stupid as hell. And then when you get to 40, you go, boy, 30-year-old me was stupid as hell. And I don't know if that ever stops. I don't know if when I get 50, I'm going to go, man, 40-year-old me was stupid as hell.
Right.
And so I think my stream, definitely the stream, but also the videos to a certain extent. I try not to read an article before I do the video because I want to be shocked and surprised. There's a little bit of reaction content in the videos. I'm obviously looking for the headlines, but when the real stupid stuff is in the actual article and it hits, I think those are great. I go, whoa! I thought this was a stupid headline. It's even stupider as you go on, if that's even a word. But things will continue to change in this. We're going to find out more information. We're going to grow. We're going to understand the duplicitous nature of a lot of things that are going on, and things might change and things might get wrong. So I don't want people to think that I think I know what I'm talking. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to be very open with everybody. A lot of what's going on is making me insane, and I think it's stupid, and I'm going to yell about it. But I don't want you to think that I think I know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to be real open. I'm all about transparency and honesty. This is my opinion at this moment, and it may or may not change. Who knows? But
Well,
leave
I
the
think
room.
what's funny about that is you say you may sound crazy, right? You sound crazy because you're surrounded by all these articles that are telling you that what you're thinking is not accurate. So when you're going, hey, um, am I crazy? Your audience is going, no, you're not crazy because we think the exact same way. We're
Yeah.
seeing this stuff too, and I think that's what really helps. Um, I I've seen you list, I don't want to get into the January 6th stuff, like, because I know there was a video of you that was like clipped on that, which
How
was
crazy is that?
right. Um, okay, so I you were listed as a right-wing extremist, right? How would you define yourself? Are you a right-wing extremist or are you a conservative? Like, give me, like, how would you define yourself as far as, people on Capitol Hill may just describe you one way, but how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, no, it's funny that a bunch of commies would consider me a right wing extremist. Um, I I would imagine, because everything changes over time. By the way, because what you were saying earlier was 100% spot on. I I voted for Obama. I was a flaming lefty. I thought George Bush was insane. I thought that Halliburton, Cheney, and all of these people who destroyed a good chunk of this planet for no stupid reason, or based on lies. I was like, these people are monsters. These are monstrous people. Because I had believed in this false two-party paradigm nonsense, and I bought into it, and then they got me to kick over to, like, my dad was a conservative. My mom was a liberal. My mom was a lefty, and my dad was a conservative.
Man, that's like a dynamic that will not happen today.
Yeah, it's crazy. They would joke about canceling each other's vote out as they would go vote, but there was no political disharmony in our household. People were able to understand that other people are different, even if you're in a marriage. And so, you know, when it gets down to it, if you take a look at any classical interpretation of politics, I'm a total moderate. Not even I just want to be left alone. I don't even care. Like, leave me alone. I want to go to work. I like working. I like being a productive member of society. I like producing and I like creating. And if anything comes from that, leave me the hell alone. And I want to take that. Then I want to take that and support people who are in my neighborhood, in my realm, in this area, who are going along. And I don't even care about your politics. Just sell me a pound of beef. Just give me some eggs. I don't even care what you're doing. What you're doing in your bedroom, I don't remotely care. And so I am a classical leave me the fuck alone. That's what I am. And that is now turned into a right-wing extremist, and I'm a Nazi, and I'm a transphobe, and I'm a homophobe, I'm anti-Semitic, I'm everything. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll be fine. This is nonsense. I just want to be loved. I want everybody to be treated. You go back to, like, the golden rule. I treat you how I want to be treated until you try to tell me some real stupid stuff. until you tell me some real stupid stuff and I start understanding that you're a nefarious agent, then we could have good terms, but I would consider myself moderate.
It's funny because my thought process has always been like, I really don't care what you believe, how you feel, as long as you don't tell me how I should feel.
Yeah.
Right. And that's pretty much it. So I think that there's a lot of similarities between us as far as, that thought process. And it's amazing how just that alone, just that thought process is been villainized, demonized by people. Oh, are you kidding me? I can't even believe it. Hal came in with a super chat, and this is a reference to an old side scrollers from like 2014. And looking back on this moment, like, this may have been like an awakening for me. And he said, it all started when Craig was told a college banned sombreros for Taco Tuesday. We were doing a story about this, and I couldn't wrap my head around it because they saw it as culturally insensitive, right?
Yeah.
There's a few stories that we did back in the day. One is the Taco Tuesday one. The other one was this girl who blinded herself with bleach because she wanted to be blind. And it's like, I have no sympathy for these people. Like, I'm sorry that you are that dumb, but I like that's insane to me. Like, at a certain point, you just need to point and laugh and be like, "You're dumb. You're an idiot. I'm sorry. I can't help but laugh at how stupid you are." Um, but those for me were like moments of like, okay, something's shifting here a little bit, and uh, at the time we could laugh at them, and now we empathize with them. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you feel that way, and we encourage this brain rot, and just honestly, it's like mental illness. I feel like we're propping mental illness up, and it's a lot of it is predicated from using social media on a day-to-day basis. It's almost pushed it home further and further.
Yeah, I think we live in a very sick society, and I think it's been made sick. And instead of trying to get people help, instead of pointing out that, it's probably not a great idea to mutilate your body. This is something that we've known all of human history and scratched it into walls. But now we're like, no, you're stunning and brave, and that's how you get these. Especially, you can really see it because it's happening so quickly on the social media platforms. You used to, like, if somebody drove by in a real nice car when I was a kid, my dad would sit there and go, "Oh, look at that car. That's a nice car. If you work hard, you can get that." And now we have incentivized weakness. We have put a clout on weakness. And now when somebody of this TikTok generation, they see somebody driving a nice car, they want to throw something at it. They want to break it, and they want to destroy it. And I think that's been amplified, weaponized, and sped out all across our society through these social media platforms.
Do you think? I think a lot of it starts and stops with social media, right? I think that if there was a limit on, let's just say, you had to be 18 before you could use social media, right? Or you look back on the history of things like smoking, right? There was a time when smoking was like, oh yes, the doctors say you can smoke and it's great for your health or whatever. And then we fast forward to go, oh yeah, by the way, you also get cancer and die from it. I feel like we're going to do that with social media. There will be a time where we look at it and we go, this did way more harm than it did good. And the mental effects that it has specifically on teenage girls has been so detrimental to society that there has to be something put in place to regulate the use of social media.
Yeah. I mean, you go find old television ads where the doctor, we suggest that you guys use Camel. And then they go, oh man, this is bad for people. My fear is that the internet, social media is an aspect of the internet. It's just changed how we are. And listen, I hope you're right. I hope we do have some sort of reckoning and understanding that this is probably. I would hope that in future generations we can get back to a point where people could raise their kids. And I'm not saying that women shouldn't be in the workforce. What I'm saying is people should have the we have made it infinitely hard for people to raise their kids. And I don't think that's an accident. And so if you have the internet and you have social media, but you also have a parent kind of who doesn't need to work 12 hours a day at 3 different jobs. If you have the ability to be productive, bring home a paycheck, and then like my grandpa went to work at like after the 8th grade and raised a family of 5 off of 1 paycheck. And there was always somebody at home. There was always my grandma was at home, or aunts and uncles. There were always people around to make sure that these kids weren't setting shit on fire. And we have really lost that. And I don't think that's on accident.
Do you think that, that goes back to a larger issue of like just 2-parent households? The idea of, a traditional family there to essentially raise the kids. And you see a lot with today's youth. There's this giant splitter, not to get too deep into the societal impact of divorce, but the divorce rate is very high. And you see kids that are being raised without a mom or without a dad. And ultimately they're not getting, the full impact of what a traditional family may look like. And ultimately when they get to a point to where they may raise a family, they don't know how to, because they weren't raised, and there's a trickle down effect attached to all this stuff. So it's scary. Like, it's scary when you think about this and what this is going to look like in 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years, and so forth. So if we even make it that far.
I know. I'm sitting there going, doesn't it just kind of feel like we got Mad Men? You had the Cuban Missile Crisis when my dad was a kid, but now I'm sitting there going, man, we got one of those popping off every week. I mean, we're sending crazy stuff to different parts of the planet and setting stuff on fire. I'm sitting there going, this seems untenable. Like, we might blow ourselves up crazily.
Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see how this goes. we'll see if we make it to that 2030. So
we'll be monitoring it.
Yes, yeah. We only got a few minutes left, so I want to read off a few super chats. But if you guys are new, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. We'll love to see you back tomorrow. We're live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thursdays we like to do interviews, and next Thursday I'm going to be talking with Razor Fist. If you guys haven't yet, please go over and check out Salty Cracker over on Rumble, where he can say what he truly means and what he truly thinks. And you can find him over on YouTube as well. 838,000 subscribers over there enjoying the Salty Army. Granny came in and says, will mugs be added to merch before Christmas? You don't want to see this senior in a t-shirt, Granny. do you have mugs for Granny, or maybe Granny's asking me? I don't know.
If that's to me, Granny, we will get the mugs for you.
Get them mugs. Maybe make a mug club, perhaps.
Mug club, yeah. We'll get our own.
AP from the Hills says, Salt Kang, show us your news thong, Ree and Mohap. Don't even know what I just said. I don't even know what I just said.
That's a reference to Young Turks with the Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore got into a fight with Anna Kasperi, and I guess she was wearing a thong in the office or something. Jimmy Dore's on fire.
Foreign user says, Tavistock Institute. Look it up. All right. Do you know what the Tavistock Institute is?
I'm not sure. I don't know if that's the there was a bunch of commies that came over, but I think that's like the Frankfurt School. I'm not sure if it's the same thing, but
maybe
not familiar.
We'll need to do a little research on that. Salty Source Rex says, I think when Obama pushed the racism narrative, things got way worse. My dad's family immigrated here, and he ran the family business after my grandpa passed and owned an apartment. Tended to trash the place due to reparations. It seems like the most backwards thing. It's like, I deserve this. It's like, what? I deserve to trash this section of the neighborhood. All right. Okay. Hal, once again, talking about the banned sombreros for Taco Tuesday. Thank you, Hal. Alien Testosterone came in, says, this is salty. Okay, I'm not even, there you go. A white supreme who keeps our great salt queen in chains. All right. Thank you. And Twisted Logic Gaming says, nerd. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Travis came in with a gifted membership as well. Greatly appreciate that. Thank you, Travis. TRS Chaos wants to know, will anyone sell brick merch? No. I'm guessing like you're talking like bricks, like throwing bricks. I don't know. But thank you very much. All right. So okay, we're at a point we're gonna wrap this up. But would you ever want to come on and just play some video games? Like some old school video games with me?
Dude, I would love to play old school video games.
Just separate from all this nonsense and just play some Ninja Gaiden or something.
Oh, dude, that game's so hard, brother. Can we play something easier?
And Mr. Gruber says, Salty, give Craig the Energons to take on Ninja Gaiden. Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Appreciate that. What is an Energon?
I just thought it's Transformers reference.
Okay. Nice.
Nerds, man. Nerds, Craig, everywhere.
Nerds! I love it. Elite Neo says, the breakdown nuclear family as a basic societal unit is the reason we still see the shit. We see the shit we see today. Elite Neo, I don't disagree with you for sure. All right, man. Well, look, stick around because I got something I want to show you after we're done here. But I want to thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate your time. I value your time, and I think it's amazing to see how much success you've had. So congratulations on that, man. And I don't know, tell everybody where they can find you if they don't already know who you are.
Craig, again, just no, I'm just kind of fluffing you up here, but I want to thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for everything that you've done. Huge, huge, huge inspiration. Just on everything that I've been able to. You're a dude who has a huge amount of influence into what I've been able to get up and going. So again, thank you so
Oh,
much.
that genuinely, it means a lot, and I appreciate that, man. Thanks. I like
That's
to think
awesome.
people have said we walked so others could run, and I think there's a there's a big there's a lot of truth in that for sure. So. Well, thank you, man. All right. With that said, we're going to wrap it up. Once again, come back tomorrow. I'll be live on Rumble this afternoon for a music appreciation stream. We're going to be taking a listen to some tunes from the 1980s, man. So make sure you guys pop in for that, and you guys can throw out your favorite songs over there. Once again, rumble.com/sidescrollers. Be live over there. Appreciate you guys popping in. And remember, people are going to try to keep you down. Don't let them. You guys got a goal? Go get it. See you guys later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.